So, Marius, at last I find you.
Tyrael, yes. Yes, now I recognize you. I should have known you'd travel in disguise. They're always watching.
I've been searching for you for a long time, Marius. I was rather beginning to think you didn't want to be found.
Oh, forgive me, Tyrael, please. It wasn't my fault.
Not your fault. Tell me, Marius, how was it not your fault?
The Wanderer. Yes, it was the Wanderer. My days at the Rogue Citadel seem so long ago. I sought refuge from my memories in the company of other outcasts, high in the mountains past the Eastern Gate.
Do you want something?
Oh, I fought sleep for days at a time. For when I dreamt, the memories would return. Memories of the monastery and the evil which had claimed it. Dreams, memories. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Had the evil from my dreams followed me at my heels? How had he found me here? How could this broken shell of a man, barely able to carry the weight of his own sword, be the burning terror which drove me to hide here? He seemed to have demons of his own that he struggled to contain. And he was losing. As I watched, I became convinced that I was truly mad. The terror, the destruction, the evil I witnessed, how else could I explain them? Were these the demons from my dream, or were they born within the Wanderer? Why did I follow him? I don't know. Why do things happen as they do in dreams? All I know is that when he beckoned, I had to follow him. And from that moment, we traveled together east, always into the east.
With a band of like-minded heroes, we follow word of a great evil that has corrupted the land near the Eastgate Monastery of Kandaras, an evil which is rumoured to have displaced the rogues from their sacred monastery. Our party consists of a fierce Amazon warrior, deadly assassin, unnerving and powerful necromancer, savage barbarian, a mystical sorceress, shape-shifting druid, and ourselves, a holy paladin. Originally, we hailed from the Knights of Westmarch, who felled the armies of mighty Leoric. Our brethren are pure of heart and closely follow the teachings of the Zakaru, the religion of light. There are those who call us paladin overwrought zealots, but others recognize the strength and goodness in the light. With the group, we head to the rogue encampment near the east gate of Kandaras, where the sisters have been displaced. We arrive at the gloomy, disheveled camp and introduce ourselves to its denizens for signs of what wrought this destruction.
Well met, noble paladin. It's been a while since I've seen any of your kind in the West. It would be an honor to aid you in any way that I can. No doubt you've heard about the tragedy that befell the town of Tristram. Well, some say that Diablo, the Lord of Terror, walks the world again. I don't know if I believe that, but a dark wanderer did travel this route a few weeks ago. He was headed east to the mountain pass guarded by the Rogue Monastery. Maybe it's nothing, but evil seems to have trailed in his wake. You see, shortly after the wanderer went through, the monastery's gates to the pass were closed, and strange creatures began ravaging the countryside. Until it's safer outside the camp and the gates are reopened, I'll remain here with my caravan. I hope to leave for Lutga Lane before the shadow that fell over Tristram consumes us all. If you're still alive then, I'll take you along. You should talk to Akara, too. She seems to be the leader of this camp. Maybe she can tell you more.
Taking Warriev's advice, we head to the High Priestess Akara, and so beginning our first quest.
I am Akara, High Priestess of the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye. I welcome you, traveler, to our camp, but I'm afraid I can offer you but poor shelter within these rickety walls. You see, our ancient sisterhood has fallen under a strange curse. The mighty citadel, from which we have guarded the gates to the east for generations, has been corrupted by the evil demoness Andariel. I still can't believe it, but she turned many of our sister rogues against us and drove us from our ancestral home. Now the last defenders of the sisterhood are either dead or scattered throughout the wilderness. I implore you, stranger, please help us. Find a way to lift this terrible curse, and we will pledge our loyalty to you for all time. There is a place of great evil in the wilderness. Kasha's rogue scouts have informed me that a cave nearby is filled with shadowy creatures and horrors from beyond the grave. I fear that these creatures are massing for an attack against our encampment. If you are sincere about helping us, find the dark labyrinth and destroy the foul beasts. May the Great Eye watch over you. There is a place of great evil in the wilderness. Kasha's rogue scouts have informed me that a cave nearby is filled with shadowy creatures and horrors from beyond the grave. I fear that these creatures are massing for an attack against our encampment. If you are sincere about helping us, find the dark labyrinth and destroy the foul beasts. May the Great Eye watch over you.
An arrival to this rogue encampment. Whatever foul forces are resurrecting these shadowy creatures for an imminent attack on the encampment, one thing is for certain: we better make haste. After initiating the quest, we think it best to talk to the other denizens and rogues scattered about. We first head to Charzi, the blacksmith, who says,
Hi there, I'm Charcy, the blacksmith here in camp. It's good to see some strong adventurers around here. Many of our sisters fought bravely against Diablo when he first attacked the town of Tristram. They came back to us true veterans, bearing some really powerful items. Seems like their victory was short-lived, though. Most of them are now corrupted by Andariel.
Asking her about the Den of Evil, she says,
The beasts from the cave have begun to roam throughout the countryside. You'd better be careful out there.
Blast! It seems we are too late, and whatever evil that lie in the cave has now spilled forth into the adjacent countryside. Heading over to the merchant Gede to chat and spy his supplies, he says,
Good day to you, partner. I'm Gede, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp. A spare weapon, some gold, a small gem is all I want in exchange for the equipment you'll need on whatever quest you might undertake. No, don't be shy. All of my items are guaranteed for life and come with a 2-day warranty.
Asking him about the Den of Evil, he says,
You're a brave soul. I'd sooner thrust my sacred scepter into the foulest carbuncular troll than set one boot into that cave.
Come again? Call me crazy, but I think Gede's thrusting of his sacred scepter into a carbuncular troll is a double entendre. As a holy paladin, I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-inch pole. Momentary confusion aside and shaking our head in disbelief, we make our way over to the rogue Cassia, who says,
Welcome, Outlander, to our glorious hovel. I know you're here to challenge the evil that's driven us from our ancestral home. But know this, Akara may be our spiritual leader, but I command the rogues in battle. It will take more than just killing a few beasts in the wilderness to earn my trust.
Asking her about the Den of Evil, she says,
The demons in that cave have claimed many of my finest archers. I wonder how you will fare.
This is tragic to know that she has lost her people to the demons outside of the encampment, and we should ready ourselves to find her kin slain in this quest. Just before we head out of the encampment, we swing past Warrior for some final words of wisdom.
One who seeks that cave seeks death.
With that grim assessment, it looks like we are left to seek death and head out into the Bloodmoor.
I will cleanse this wilderness.
The monsters in the Bloodmoor area are all generally weak and or non-aggressive, with only a smattering of fallen, quill, and zombies meandering about. It's not long until we spy what can only be the entrance to the accursed cave itself. A fallen victim lie next to the cave, splayed out as if they were felled fleeing for their lives. The cave entrance itself adorned with crude demonic artwork, what appears to be the horned skull of a demon on the left and a large green demon on the right, gleefully admitting some kind of lightning charge spell at potential victims or zombie undead. With a pause to gather ourselves, we head inside and remark,
Evil dwells within this cave.
The cave is noticeably dark. Something is wrong here. It's home to a myriad of enemies, notably fallen shaman, zombies, and gargantuan beasts. This early in the game, when our defenses are still low and life is also low, it is better to be prepared. Remembering to attack shamans first before attacking their minions, as although shamans do not appear outside in the first area, we learn quickly they can deftly resurrect their fallen minions. After clearing much of the cave, we happen upon a particularly foul undead, a zombie named Corpsefire, located in the cave, and usually at the opposite end of the entrance. Corpsefire is a super unique zombie guarding the Den of Evil. He's the first super unique of the game, and as such, will always drop 2 items of magical quality or above. He can be considered a little mini-boss, as he is likely the first super unique a player encounters when starting out with Diablo 2. After felling the foul foe and identifying our items and bounty, although the quest is nearly complete, we portal back to town. The reason being is, unlike Diablo 1, Diablo 2 boasts early return dialogue for all characters in its quests, which, as a story retelling of the game, we shall take full advantage of. Speaking to Akara early, she says,
Your task is not complete until you have killed all the demons in that cave.
Akara, pragmatic in her response, we're left to see Chazi, who replies,
You haven't cleared the cave yet? Do you need anything?
Chazi seems more ready to aid us than Akara, but what does Geed have to say? Nothing about his scepter, I hope.
Demons still be fouling that cave, huh? I think you might need a new weapon.
Ever the salesman, Geed, keeping it clean, but what about Kasha?
You'd better come through on this. Your reputation depends on it.
Kasha blatantly lets us know our reputation depends on completing this task. Whereas Wariv says,
One who hesitates does so with good reason.
Wisdom intact and honestly mood lightened just a little, we head back into the stinking pit of evil once more. Nearing the end of the quest itself will begin to update on how many monsters are left within the den, and it's clear that we have to rid it of all of its demonic taint before we are done. Once all the monsters have been cleared, the den will be flooded with a welcome light, and we remark to ourselves,
My duty here is done.
As the cave is now expunged of demonic taint, we're now able to claim our reward from Akara. Akara will grant you the boon of 1 free skill point and 1 free character skill / stat. Upon completion, she also says,
You have cleansed the Den of Evil. You've earned my trust, and may yet restore my faith in humanity. Your reward is training in the skill of your choice.
An invaluable reward, and a trust is equally welcome. So we speak to the other camp inhabitants. It seems, with previous attempts falling short and the poor slain rogues, Akara was right to worry about us.
You are truly brave and skillful. Akara was worried about you.
Geed, on the other hand, remarks,
The only good demon is a dead one, I say. By the way, did you happen to find anything in that cave you'd like to sell?
He is right, honestly, about demons, and there's nothing wrong with a shiny new sword for your inventory. Though I'm staying away from his scepters. With that, we pass Wariv, who states wryly,
That which does not kill you makes you stronger.
Upon clearing the Den of Evil in the Bloodmoor, talking to Kasha in the rogue encampment, who says,
My rogue scouts have just reported an abomination in the monastery graveyard. Apparently, Andariel is not content to take only our living. Bloodraven, one of our finest captains in the battle against Diablo at Tristram, was also one of the first to be corrupted by Andariel. Now you'll find her in the monastery graveyard, raising our dead as zombies. We cannot abide this defilement. If you are truly our ally, you will help us destroy her.
What an intensely grim thought. Andariel, the Demoness responsible for corrupting the rogue's finest, and to add further insult to injury, forcing the now demonically influenced Bloodraven to, in turn, raise and corrupt the dead, amassing her own undead army of followers. After initiating the quest, we seek out further guidance from the townsfolk on this once esteemed Bloodraven, starting with Akara.
Bloodraven fought valiantly against Diablo in the catacombs beneath Tristram. She was never quite the same afterwards. It is now obvious that she brought an evil influence back with her.
What foul treachery is this? Does Diablo's corruption know no bounds? First, we learn of the warrior's corruption due to his containing of the Soul Stone during the events of Diablo 1. But it seems the rogue who was present with him carries her own taint. Heading to Charsi, the blacksmith, for further insight, she confirms.
Bloodraven was the leader of a rogue band that once fought Diablo at Tristram.
This is indeed a sad fate. We are a paltry 2 quests deep in Diablo 2 and the story pulls no punches. However, if I may take an aside, a fun fact to share is the rogue is actually voiced by Glynis Tolkien Campbell,
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
who also provided the voice for Jillian the Barmaid in Diablo 1 and our very own Kasha in Diablo 2, plus many more.
Good day. How may I serve you?
After digesting this grisly news, we visit Geed, the merchant, who says,
I'm sorry. The undead are bad for trade. I have a strict no-return policy.
although I'm sure Geed was just looking for a cheeky pun about people returning, I wouldn't put it past the sleazy merchant being half serious about his rigid no-return policy. As we make our way out of the camp, we momentarily stop by Wariv, who poses.
How can one kill what is already dead?
And unfortunately, although a philosophical question in nature, it is also a question we will have to put into physical application. Leaving the safety of the encampment, we head to the monastery graveyard, located just off the cold plains as per Kasha's instructions. When entering the burial grounds, we see our quest update with one directive: kill Bloodraven. Once there, we start noticing a large quantity of undead, and we want to make sure to take care of these skeletons, zombies, and any errant hungry dead found at the edges of the burial grounds outside the cemetery gates, in case we start to become overwhelmed by undead, as Bloodraven will surely raise them once more. This will ensure that there will be fewer creatures to try and surround and attack us while we try and take on Bloodraven in the center of the cemetery. But before we try our direct attack, it's also of note that the area has a crypt and mausoleum that are both worth checking out for that extra experience for low-level characters. The mausoleum is largely identical to the crypt. They are both of equal size, contain same monsters, and have the same area level, and both contain a single gold chest. The one difference is that the mausoleum contains no super unique guarding the chest. Instead, a regular unique monster guards it. After looting said chest, we can head over to the crypt, where there is also a golden chest within said crypt that is guarded by a single super unique Bonebreaker. Heading back out into the burial ground, it seems Bloodraven has been busy. Before we hunt her down and she can find fresh victims to resurrect for her ever-growing army of the undead, as Diablo 2 boasts early return dialogue for its quests, which we shall take full advantage of, as well as taking a rest and selling some of our gear. Portaling back to the rogue encampment, we speak to Akara, who says,
If you fail to destroy Bloodraven, I fear that our order will perish forever.
It's a sentiment we share, as no doubt the camp would be overrun before soon. And Chari praises Akara's foresight, stating,
Akara felt something was wrong even before Andariel descended upon us. She feared that Bloodraven had stumbled upon some evil force beneath Tristram. I wish we had acted then.
Would the rogues have fell victim if they acted sooner? It seems like a lesser evil is no mild threat. Geed, on the other hand, has more pressing concerns.
I wonder if that old gossip Melra is among the undead. Oh, she had dirt on everybody.
Again with the double entendre, as the zombies are unearthed, and this Melra reportedly had dirt on everyone. Maybe also Geed and his sacred scepter? Kasha, ever the grounded pragmatist, says,
Each moment you delay adds another undead sister to Bloodraven's army.
And we take our leave before swinging by an unusually somber Wariv, who tells us,
When the dead return to prey upon the living, it is a terror beyond understanding.
Terror, it seems, has gripped even the most stoic of the rogues. Our thoughts and attention turn back to poor Bloodraven, and we head back to the burial grounds for our unenviable confrontation and duty to put her to rest. When we enter the burial ground once more, Bloodraven gleefully announces,
"My army will destroy you."
And we see her girt by a gaggle of zombies. Bloodraven's arrows, as foul as Andariel, are laced with a particularly nasty poison. And for some immediate damage, she also boasts fire-laced arrows too. Attempting to quell the uprising of dead, we first focus our attention on the newly risen before we are overwhelmed. We spy they're gathered near an unholy display of hanging rogues on a tree. After being peppered with arrows unceremoniously and staving off our own death and inevitable undead return, we managed to fell most of the zombies for now and focus solely on Bloodraven, as it is quite apparent she will deftly raise a cheeky zombie or two left unchecked and fill the graveyard given enough time. Hacking away at Bloodraven, she finally falls in a massive display of lightning which bursts forth from her body in an awesome arc licking through the graveyard and that wipes out the remaining zombies attached to her very essence. We then see it is actually Bloodraven, her soul in her true rogue form being released from her fleshy, demonic prison. Exhaustedly, we then exclaim,
"Sisters, there was no other way."
We then head back to town to let the townsfolk know of this tragic, inevitable outcome.
Andariel must be made to pay for her sacrilege.
We know in our hearts what Akara says is true, but if this is Bloodraven's reward for her service, taking on Diablo, the Lord of Terror, we cannot help but ponder our own fate when we cross the Demoness Andariel. Chazi, banging away at a forge, states,
Kasha wishes to reward you for your defeat of Bloodraven. I thank you too, even though Bloodraven was once my friend.
And it's hammered home that Bloodraven wasn't just a hero to these people, but a comrade and a friend. Although, does Geed feel the same way?
Some of those gals weren't so nice the first time around.
Predictably flippant as ever, Geed shows his hand that his company or even advances were not so welcomed by the fairer sex in the rogue encampment. We finally speak to Kasha for a reward, and she says,
I can hardly believe that you've defeated Bloodraven. Though she was once my closest friend, I pray that her tortured spirit remains banished forever. You have earned my respect, stranger, and the allegiance of the rogues. I have placed several of my best warriors at your disposal.
We have now gained the respect of Kasha. Although she lost her dearest friend, she gifts us the ability to hire her rogues to fight alongside us. And one named Paige joins us in the battle. Meanwhile, Warrior then congratulates us and says,
"You've done well, stranger. I hope all your efforts are worth it."
It is clear that we are facing an evil difficult to comprehend, let alone combat. There is only one Haradrim sage, schooled in the most arcane history and lore, who could advise us. His name is Deckard Cain. You must go to Tristram and find him, my friend. I pray that he still lives. Tristram is too far to journey by foot. Cain would likely be dead when you arrived. However, there is a magical portal that will take you there instantly. To open it, one must stand within the circle of cairnstones and touch them in a certain order. The proper order can be found in the runes written on the bark of the Tree of Inifis. You must find the sacred Tree of Inifis and bring back its bark. I will translate the runes to unlock the stone's mystic pattern.
It seems we are tasked with finding a valuable scholar in an acute amount of danger, being in the town whence Diablo sprung forth. However, this mystery of a magical portal, cairnstones, and magical tree is a lot to absorb. So we speak to the others townsfolk for clues. Heading first to Chazi, the blacksmith.
If you bring back the bark of Inifis, Akara will tell you how to get to Tristram.
I don't understand how this tree will portal us to Tristram exactly, but we must collect the bark of Inifis from presumably its tree. Easy enough, but what does Gede think of this quest?
I would sooner micturate in a tankard of my own ale than journey to Tristram.
Well, today I learned that micturate is of Latin origins and translates as desire to urinate. So Gede would rather pee in his own tankard of ale than head back to the accursed Tristram. Honestly, I actually don't blame him. Kasha, on the other hand,
The bark of Inifis holds mystical runes. Akara can translate them into our revenge.
this must be some tree, and Kasha's blood is boiling over at the thought of Andariel's fiendish twisting of her sisters. Without further delay, we make haste to find the vital pieces, but first we swing by Warriv.
Months ago, I came across a few survivors from Tristram. They said that Cain had gone half-mad and could no longer distinguish fact from fantasy.
Wow. So even if we complete this task, it may be to find a half-addled lunatic. The fact that people have openly cast aspersions about Deckard Cain's sanity, the same esteemed scholar of the Herodrum and critical aid to the warrior in Diablo 1, is troubling. Honestly, what transpired at Tristram and the effects it had on its townsfolk, who could blame him? If anything, it just further steels our resolve to find Cain before it's too late. Heading out of camp, our first step is clear. Find the Tree of Inifis. To do so, our journal updates and tells us first we must travel to the Dark Wood, which is accessible only through the underground passage via the Stony Field, and holds the sacred tree. Upon entry into the underground passage via the Stony Field, it is the largest cave in Act 1. However, it's littered with a smattering of enemy variants, but is otherwise unremarkable. Resurfacing in the Dark Wood, we search for the truant tree and find night has fallen upon us. Feeling more than a little disoriented in this new forest, we head back to the encampment via town portal for further clues. It should be noted, as this quest requires a total of 3 steps, which is the most intricate of any quest in Act 1 to complete. It also features a sizable 3 early return dialogue branches from the townsfolk of the Rogue encampment. The first can be activated upon arrival back at the encampment, and Akara scolds.
How will you find Cain without going to Tristram? Finding the Tree of Inifis is the first step on your journey.
Darzi also reiterates much of the same.
Without the bark of Inifis, you can't find Cain.
Gede keeps things light with an expected pun.
Barking up the wrong tree, huh? You'll find it. Just keep looking.
Kasha assures us.
The Tree of Inifis is hard to find, but you'll know it when you see it.
And Warriv hammers home what we already know.
He who seeks that which cannot be found must look inside himself for further guidance. Or look harder.
Clearly, this tree is out there, and unique enough that we will know it when we stumble upon it. Waiting for first light, we make our way back to the Dark Wood. The Tree of Inifis is typically located by itself, and we see that its magical presence has attracted some unwanted attention, as it is guarded by a super unique gargantuan beast known as Treehead Woodfist, and a pack of his Wendigo bros. Unlike regular monsters of the Wendigo family, he is A, quite fast, and B, packs a wallop to boot, slapping poor Paige down like she owed him gold. Once we have felled Treehead, we can then approach the Tree of Inifis, and upon loosing the scroll of Inifis from the dilapidated tree,
This tree bristles with magic.
our quest updates and we return to Akara in the Rogue encampment to decipher the scroll, and for the second early return dialogue in the game. Approaching Chazi first, however, she instructs.
Get this to Akara. Only she can understand it.
We agree to heed Chazi's advice, but first we make our way anti-clockwise around the camp heading momentarily to Geed in front of his caravan.
Look, friend, I trade a lot of strange items, but I'm not gonna start dealing in bark, okay?
With nothing but contempt for this scroll and its value, we throw up our hands and speak next to Kasha.
With this scroll, you may open a portal back to Tristram. Only Akara can decipher its logic.
Speaking to the philosophical Warrior next, he pragmatically states,
This looks like gibberish to me. Akara may know what to make of it.
And with that, we have nothing left to do but head over to Akara, who guides.
Ah, very good. I have translated the runes on this scroll. You must find the cairnstones and touch them in the order that I have written.
Our quest log updates and reads, Go to the cairnstones in the stony field. Touch the stone in order found on the scroll of Inifis. Enter the portal to Tristram, but beware the danger that lies ahead. We then check the scroll and confirm that it mystically will display the exact order in which to touch the pillars, forebodingly surrounding a pentagram in the middle. As we make our way into the stony field, we notice that we passed the peculiar cairnstones previously. These particular cairnstones are guarded by a nasty pack of carvers, especially if you happen upon them at lower levels, as one which is in the middle of his brethren is a super unique carver named Rakanishu, who happens to be a fallen demigod whose origins I have covered in a previous video. When attacking Rakanishu, melee heroes need to be careful because his lightning enchanted status causes several charge bolts to radiate out from him each time he is damaged. Quick attacks on Rakanishu will result in equally quick death if you don't watch yourself, especially on the higher difficulty levels. It should be noted, Rakanishu is the first lightning enchanted boss in Diablo 2. After felling the fallen foe and using the Scrolls of Inifis as a guide, touching each of the cairnstones in the correct order, we see lightning licks in a brilliant flash, and we open an ominous crimson portal directly to the town of Tristram. As we have been warned many times of the dangers which lie ahead, and recovering from our skirmish with Rakanishu and his pack of fallen, we head back to the encampment to activate the third and final early return dialogue. Upon seeing us back at the camp, Akara frantically exclaims,
If he still lives, Deckard Cain may be in grave peril. You must hurry to Tristram before all is lost.
We gather supplies, repair our weapons with Chazi the blacksmith, and then she warns,
I have heard that Tristram is now in ruins. Without Cain, I fear for the ruin of all of us.
We decide maybe talking to Geed can't hurt while we're in town, and he reveals,
I'm told that Tristram now resembles a mead hall after a barbarian wedding. I will wait here for your most glorious return.
Well, we can't help but picture the barbarian wedding and hope our return is glorious and less messy. Kasha, on the other hand, stresses,
Deckard Cain has crucial knowledge about the evils we face. You must find him.
We know Deckard Cain possesses unique and vital information on facing Andariel, the Demoness. Without a moment to lose, we check in with Warriv quickly.
It is too dangerous to travel to Tristram. I won't be leaving here until the way is clear.
And it seems Andariel and the forces of hell are making sure vital travel routes are blocked. We must take our chances to circumvent this, and so we head back to the cairnstones and happily step into the portal.
What a tragic end to Tristram.
It seems we may be too late. Tristram is shown to be heavily destroyed by demons and, unfortunately, on fire. Although most buildings remain roughly in the same place as they were in Diablo 1, various corpses can be seen scattered around town, suggesting that perhaps the bulk of the original townsfolk didn't make it out alive. Although, an aside, some of the survivors' fates are confirmed in Diablo 3. We have a first-hand account of Diablo's tragic victims. In the northwest outskirts of town, we spy what looks like a straggler's fleeing corpse, and the most northwestern building, there's a corpse of a poor townsman in Tremaine the priest's house, and it looks to be crushed by a pillar and reduced to not much more than a stain. Heading to the southwestern side of the town, down by the river, we see Wirt the Peg-Legged boys, corpse face down, surrounded by far too many fallen once again.
Over here.
But can be looted for a considerable amount of gold. A peg leg that may or may not come in handy later, you never know. And he also altruistically gives back to the player some of the gold he acquired in Diablo 1, no doubt as a wry nod from the developers of his shrewd business tactics. In the southern part of town, hacking our way through carvers and the undead, is the town's blacksmith, Griswold, or what remains of Griswold.
Whoa, what can I do for you?
We are forced to face this one-time ally, as he is a super unique of the area and a particularly strong foe. Said that the stout Griswold was one of those who were bound past death to attend to the desires of the three. Wandering the town he once loved, he uses arcane powers and unholy strength granted to his twisted body by Andariel herself to stop any from following the path of the Wanderer. After defeating Griswold, we also realize that our audience, the skeleton leaning on the same rock that poor Farnham did, is most likely the remains of the town drunk who used to plop himself down in front of that very rock.
Can't a fellow drink in peace?
It seems, if it is Farnham, he was overwhelmed before he could get up, or maybe unable to bring himself to face the horrors once more.
No, you can't make me go back there. I won't let you take me. Too much pain. So many dead. Can't get the blood out of my eyes. My mouth.
Speaking of horrors, we finally locate Deckard Cain's prison in the center of town, guarded by champion skeletons and 3 nasty champion Carver shaman, and a horde of Carver to boot. Sensing his chance to escape, he beckons to us, rattling his cage, pleading for our aid. We can choose to further clear the town for his safe passage, or gamble on his quick escape by freeing him during the fighting.
Deckard Cain, leave quickly.
I thank you, friend, for coming to my aid.
Once we have finally purged Tristram again of the burning legions, we wipe our brow, take one last look at what remains of the town, realizing as we inspect the eastern building in the town square that a charred and naked corpse is suspiciously close to where Pepin the Healer once stood.
What ails you, my friend?
We're ready to leave the accursed town once and for all, so we head back to the rogue encampment via town portal for a final time to speak to Deckard Cain, who says,
As a token of my gratitude, I will identify items for you at no charge.
This is a fantastic boon, usable for the entirety of the game, as following his rescue, Deckard Cain will offer to identify items for us at no charge. However, remarkably, this is the only quest in Diablo 2 that can be failed. You can choose not to rescue Deckard Cain before continuing all the way to Act 2. However, it will be considered a failed quest until a new game has been made. In this case, Deckard Cain will tell you that he was rescued by the rogues, and he seems to hold a bit of a grudge as he reverts back to his Diablo 1 dealings with the player, and you will have to pay 100 gold in order to have your items identified by him for the rest of the game.
Oh, blessings on the rogues. They finally rescued me from that cursed place.
Herodrum, forgive, but don't forget. Heading to Chazi next, she advises.
Akara wishes to reward you for your bravery in returning Deckard Cain.
Ah, Cain is here. Another customer. I haven't been this pleased since a love-starved maiden let down a bit more than her hair.
I don't think Cain has much coin or want to picture Geet pleased. Scrubbing that mental image out of our brain, we head to Kasha, who says,
Again, you amaze me, Outlander. The Sisterhood is grateful to you for delivering Cain to us. I believe Akara has something to tell you.
Kasha, firmly on our side, is right. We should head to Akara as we briefly speak to Waruv, who similarly states,
"Only a brave adventurer could return with Deckard Cain. Akara has a reward for your valor."
With that, we finally see Akara about this rumored reward, and she remarks,
"You have risked your life to rescue Cain. For that we thank you. We must seek his counsel immediately."
With thanks, Akara also gifts us this random magic ring. Ring in hand and items identified, our final speech can be with Cain, who reveals more about the fate of Tristram and Diablo himself. However, I will save that for the outro of this video, as it's pretty long and very detailed.
Regrettably, I could do nothing to prevent the disaster which devastated Tristram. It would appear that our greatest fears have come to pass. Diablo, the Lord of Terror, has once again been set loose upon the world. As you know, some time ago Diablo was slain beneath Tristram, and when our hero emerged triumphant from the labyrinth beneath town, we held a grand celebration that lasted several days. Yet, as the weeks passed, our hero became increasingly aloof. He kept his distance from the rest of the townsfolk and seemed to lapse into a dark, brooding depression. I thought that perhaps his ordeal had been so disturbing that he simply could not put it out of his mind. The hero seemed more tormented every passing day. I remember he awoke many times, screaming in the night, always something about the East. One day he simply left, and shortly thereafter Tristram was attacked by legions of foul demons. Many were slain, and the demons left me to die in that cursed cage. I believe now that Tristram's hero was that dark wanderer who passed this way before the monastery fell. I fear even worse, my friend. I fear that Diablo has taken possession of the hero who sought to slay him. If true, Diablo will become more powerful than ever before. You must stop him, or all will be lost.
The Forgotten Tower, and the quest, which is first activated by reading a book rather than an NPC. The book, known as the Moldy Tome, can be found on a stone pedestal in the Stony Field, which reads,
"And so it came to pass that the Countess, who once bathed in the rejuvenating blood of 100 virgins, was buried alive. And her castle, in which so many cruel deeds took place, fell rapidly into ruin. Rising over the buried dungeons in that god-forsaken wilderness, a solitary tower, like some monument to evil, is all that remains. The Countess's fortune was believed to be divided among the clergy, although some say that more remains unfound, still buried alongside the rotting skulls that bear mute witness to the inhumanity of the human creature."
What a disturbing and horrific read. This countess, if real, bathed in the blood of 100 virgins and was a blight upon the land and deserved to be burned alive for her transgressions. It's upon reading the Moldy Tome, our quests log updates, adding the Forgotten Tower, and tells us to look for the tower, which is located in the Black Marsh, beyond the Dark Wood. Continuing on our quest with more pressing matters at hand, aiding the rogues in the defeat the Demoness Andariel. However, later, when entering the Black Marsh, we happen upon a big, foreboding tower. Realizing this is the tower in which the tome spoke of, we promptly head back to the rogue encampment, seeking whatever guidance we can from its denizens before we enter. Speaking first to Akara, she confirms.
The dangers there are not solely architectural. Once inside that wretched place, many succumb to a vile miasma.
So, it seems this accursed tower still holds some activity, maybe agitated due to Andariel's blight upon the land. Heading next to Deckard Cain, the scholar, who then muses.
That tower marks a place of danger. There is an epic poem about it. How much sorrow one can stand was tested there.
So the tower tests you in some horrific capacity. Our resolve firm, but ever wary, we next see Charzy, the town blacksmith, who states,
That old tower is as rotten on the inside as it appears on the outside. I heard that several sisters came to a gruesome end when a stairwell collapsed on them.
Oh no. Even the rogues have lost sisters in there. An accident or more victims for the Countess beyond the grave. We then speak to Gide, who says,
The only wealth you're likely to find there is a wealth of vermin.
Although wealth may draw a lesser man, our mind is firmly fixed on the demonic taint of the tower. Gold does help though. Kasha speaks of the treasure further, saying,
The tome speaks of treasure, yet all we have found are death, delirium, and disappointment.
So it seems people have heard of the treasure. It must be folklore at this point, and a dangerous lure to boot. Wareve too replies,
Rumors of treasure are no different from rumors of any other kind. They hold false promise to those who should know better.
Although we are less interested in treasure than most, we find ourselves drawn to this strange tower as we feel a pinch inside. As a holy paladin, our sense of duty inexplicably tugs at our innards, pressing us to enter. After heading back to the Black Marsh and steeling ourselves to what waits within, we finally enter the tower and boldly exclaim,
This tower shall be cleansed of evil.
We find ourselves first in a cramped, poorly lit cellar with bones strewn around and its centerpiece, a puddle of blood, and a quest updates urging us to explore the cellar dungeons beneath the tower, in which we spy a crude hole bored into the side of the wall, setting the tone for our welcome. We make our way through into the cellar, which at first glance looks more like a mausoleum, and are immediately pounced on by some nasty blood clan. The cellar itself opens to a larger room and is littered with blood clan, devilkin, disturbed ghosts, presumably of the dead which lay in the tombs before us, and demon dark archers, who are led by one extra strong, unique dark archer named Gloombite, the Impaler, lobbing arrows as we crush her aspirations to turn us prematurely into a pincushion. And we head further down the Dark Tower's levels with more visual confirmations that the rogues themselves have made it thus far, with burning effigies on display, and perhaps a sadder confirmation that the rogues have been here is the array of dark archers who were, in life, rogue archers, corrupted now in undeath. Heading into the next room, we see a big burning pentagram. It seems dark rituals are back in full effect, slogging our way through 4 short, nasty levels of this putrid crypt. We see the door to the 5th and presumably final level. Before we head down into the 5th level of this evil tower, finding ourselves questioning its promised wealth at this point, we momentarily head back to the rogue encampment for advice, and Akara tells us,
There is no more I can tell you about that ancient tower.
Cain similarly gives us a pragmatic hot take.
Quickly in and quickly out is all the advice I can give you.
Charzy questions our resolve with,
You're not ready to give up, are you?
Gide? Well, he says something we won't repeat.
Guess what? I've named a boil on my ass after you. It too bothers me every time I sit down.
Now that was another unfortunate mental image for the collection, and we momentarily contemplate giving Gide another lump for his collection. Gathering our composure, we head to Kasha, who then poses.
Have you suddenly lost your taste for wealth?
And Wareve gives us a sage piece of advice.
Better an empty pocket than a full grave.
Advice we choose not to heed. as we head back down to the 5th and final level of the foul Forgotten Fortress. As we enter level 5, our journal updates and gives us one horrific directive: dispose of the evil Countess. So, the previously slain Countess who sacrificed 100 virgins' evil remains, and she herself returns. But in what ghastly form? Unfortunately, it seems, we're about to find out as we enter the large main hall room and clear out the errant ghosts, devilkin surrounding what seems to be a boiling pool of blood, and it looks like the Countess is up to her old bathing habits. Flanking the room on the eastern side, we clear out the remaining demons and dark stalkers as the Countess exclaims,
"Here for a bloodbath?"
It's then we're forced to face the foul Countess as she blocks the room, showing off her newly acquired fire enchantment abilities as a pack of stalkers attempt to flank us in the fire. Once disposing of this Countess and her minions, she burns into a plume of smoke that makes its way to the chest she was guarding, which swings open to reveal its contents, spewing forth what seems to be much gold, but on closer inspection, it's a paltry amount.
I've earned the right to this abandoned trove.
The Countess drops a nice rune. However, the Ral rune, which boasts hefty fire damage when embedded in a weapon, or respectable fire resistance of 30% when socketed in armor, is a welcome addition to the collection. Reward in hand and task complete, we are glad to rid ourselves of this wicked place and head back to the camp to speak to Akara of our newly acquired boon, who says,
I thought the stories of treasure in the tower were nothing but lies. I am glad you found something of value in that death trap. Would that our sisters had been so fortunate.
It is sad to think of the sisters. If we had the time and the means, that tower would be destroyed brick by brick. Kane, however, goes on to congratulate us warmly, saying,
"Well done, my friend. Courage and opportunity together have created in you a kind of alchemy."
Who would have thought? Kill demons, get loot. Charzy too admires our slightly heftier coin purse, stating,
"Those riches will serve you well on the long road ahead."
Kasha then tells us her thoughts on the tower.
Your rewards are well earned. To us, the tower was nothing more than a headstone looming over a long-forgotten grave.
Which is understandable. What a grim reminder to her and her sisters. Wareve, on the other hand, has more immediate concerns, saying,
"Remember, wealth is as insubstantial as a cloud and passes as quickly. Ignore Geed. All that twitters is not bold."
And finally, after the cheeky spot of shade that Wareve has cast in Geed's general direction, Geed compares Wareve too with,
Wareve's advice is like corpse gas. It befouls the air for a moment, and then it disappears.
And that was honestly a beautiful comparison. A fitting end for the Forgotten Tower, though there have been strange rumors around the camp of a missing blacksmith's hammer I really should go talk to Charzy about.
When I fled the monastery, I left behind the Herodric Malice, my enchanted smithing hammer. If you can retrieve it for me, I'll use its magic to strengthen your equipment. The monastery can confuse even those who know it well. Stay alert in there.
After initiating the quest, we speak to the denizens of the encampment for more clues regarding this truant tool. Akara urges us to make haste, saying,
The retrieval of the Herodric Malice is not without risk. Our monastery is filled with voracious hellspawn. You'd best be careful, my friend.
Shuddering at the thought of a monastery filled with voracious hellspawn, we then speak to Deckard Cain, the Herodric scholar himself, for further guidance.
The Malice was forged and enchanted by the ancient Herodric mages during the Sin Wars. When their union dissolved, the Malice was entrusted to the Sisterhood, guarding the pass into the east.
This malice must be powerful indeed, to be forged by the Horodrim themselves, a secret order formed to safeguard sanctuary from the forces of hell. It is also a great loss to think that the Burning Hells have their hands on this sacred artifact, and what wicked weapons they could create with it. Gede the merchant then confides in us, saying,
Charcy talks of nothing anymore but this Horodric malice. Between you and her, my ears need a rest. Just find it and bring it back quickly.
Poor Charcy, she must be beside herself over this missing hammer, but what do her sisters know of it going astray?
Charcy is wasting her time and talents using an inferior hammer. Had she the Horodric malice, she could make the steel sing and craft you a suit of armor as impenetrable as the Great Eye.
Honestly, steel singing sounds favorable to us, and the Great Eye seems to be some impervious god of the Sisters of the Sightless Eye. Wareve sees us exiting the camp and beckons to us one last time to say,
Just as an archer needs bow and arrow, or a draftsman pen and paper, so Charcy needs the Horodric malice with which to ply her trade.
We firmly agree with Wareve's appraisal. After all, these are Charcy's tools of the trade. Exiting the safe confines of the camp once more and heading back into the unforgiving wilderness. The Rogue Monastery can be found by following the path through the Black Marsh and the Tomo Highlands. Once we reach the Rogue Monastery, a group of former rogues burst forth to greet us in undeath.
Even the light cannot pierce this gloom.
Knowing we must aid in cleansing this once sacred place, we continue through the outer cloister, strewn with gore of the fallen rogues and statues of their former glory. And finally, we find the barracks. Once inside the barracks, the air is noticeably thicker and light, visibly dim. It seems the new occupants prefer the dark. Our quest then updates, guiding us to look for the Horodric malice in the dark, somewhere inside these barracks. But beware, the smith that guards it. Before we do so, we head back to town to stock up on supplies and initiate the early return dialogue. To which Akara states,
If you can't carry out this quest, how will you face the greater evils ahead?
Which is a fair assertion. We must grow in strength or perish in time. Kane otherwise confirms.
The malice has eluded you so far. Well, search thoroughly in the barracks. That is where the rogues kept their forge.
The malice is in the forge, and we must scour it post-haste. Charcy similarly states,
The malice is a Horodric artifact of great power. Please bring it back.
Honestly, she must be missing her malice. Gede as well has a word for us when we have a moment.
I've heard that you bear us no malice.
It's official. Gede finds himself punny. Heading next to Kasha, her warning takes on a more somber tone, saying,
To do battle with Andariel requires more than thick skin and a strong will. You'll want armor and weaponry forged with the hammer's enchantments.
Her words ring true. We will need to be well equipped to face a lesser evil, no less, and some of our gear is honestly less than optimal. We swing by Wareve once more as he says,
Well, what better opportunity to show your mettle?
So it seems there's nothing left to do but head to the barracks and test our mettle once more against demonic flesh. The Horodric malice is located somewhere within the barracks, guarded by a demon known as the Smith. We know this much. We note that the first room we enter is guarded by Moonclan and Devilkin and looks to be some type of dining area, now filled with blood, bone, and death. It's said around the camp that when Andariel's deceit overthrew the structure of the Sisterhood, a great struggle between the followers of Bloodraven and Kasha erupted. The rogues were forced to give up their ancestral home, and the monastery is now filled with voracious hellspawn. While all these dark beasts are dangerous, the Overlord who guards the malice is particularly brutal. Known as the Smith, this vile craftsman now uses the power of the malice to create weaponry for the minions of Diablo. and it wasn't long until we witness his handiwork firsthand. As we clear room by room, we come into what appears to be an armory and spy a great blue demon overlord who says,
"I shall make weapons from your bones!"
This must be the fabled smith, working Charsy's old forge in a mockery of its former function. We take care of the two skeletons. Although a super strong unique, we are bolstered by the zeal of the high heavens themselves and vanquish the foul creature. We then check out a few blue items which the smith dropped. None are really of note. However, what is of note is Charsy's own malice, which we haphazardly bumped off the rack in the commotion. Now, with hammer in hand,
this will help the sisters turn the tide against evil.
We head back to the rogue encampment. Speaking first to Akara, who says,
"Well done, my friend. But remember, the return of the Horadric Malice is but one step in reclaiming the monastery."
It's shocking to think that the sprawling monastery was the base of operations for the rogues, who have been exiled to this paltry camp. The sacred monastery, Andariel has claimed as her own seat of power. Cain tells us of the malice, saying,
"The magical effects imbued by the malice are impossible to predict, but are always to the good."
We cannot be unhappy with the results that are rumored to always be good, though as a Horadrim, Cain may be a bit biased. Speaking of predictable results, we speak to the Rye Geed, who says,
"I guess it's too late to take back some of the names I called you?"
"It's never too late, Geed. It's never too late." Kasha then tells us,
"Now that the Horadric Malice is back in our possession, we shall use it to deliver a great blow against the evil which torments this land."
It does feel good to place the hammer back in the hands of the righteous. Wariv shares our sentiment and says,
"I am glad the hammer has returned, and you with it."
Finishing our well-earned victory lap with hammer in hand, we finally visit Charzy, who excitedly exclaims,
"Oh, thanks so much for returning the Horadric Malice. I will now imbue one of your items with magical powers."
By retrieving the Horadric Malice and returning it to Charzy, you will be able to imbue a piece of equipment with randomly selected abilities. Note that no magic, rare, set, or unique items can be used. And it's also worth noting that this can only be done once, therefore it is highly recommended that we wait until later game, such as in Acts 3 or 4, and imbue a higher level item. But that's it for the tools of the trade and the Sisters' Burial Ground.
Diablo is heading east for some foul purpose, and the only passage east is through the monastery gate. Obviously, Diablo summoned Andariel to block any pursuit. For her part, Andariel hopes to win Diablo's favor. The lesser demons are always vying for positions of power within the unholy hierarchy.
After completing Tools of the Trade, Deckard Cain will approach us in the rogue encampment with grim news.
It is certain that we face the Demon Queen, Andariel, who has corrupted the Rogue Sisterhood and defiled their ancestral monastery. This does not bode well for us, my friend. Ancient Horadric texts record that Andariel and the other lesser evils once overthrew the three prime evils, Diablo, Mephisto, and Baal, banishing them from hell to our world. Here they caused mankind untold anguish and suffering before they were finally bound within the Soul Stones. Andariel's presence here could mean that the forces of hell are once again aligned behind Diablo and his brothers. If this is true, then I fear for us all. You must kill her before the monastery becomes a permanent outpost of hell, and the way east lost forever.
And so begins our final mandate. Everything we have labored for thus far in aiding the sisters has led to this moment. Face and defeat Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish, in combat, or we will perish in a horrific manner and our efforts will be for naught. Pushing that grim thought to the back of our mind, we decide we should speak to the denizens of the encampment for clues, perhaps for the last time. All too familiar with anguish lately, the High Priestess Akara says,
Andariel has desecrated all we hold dear. She must not be permitted to serve Diablo. Destroy her. The corruption of our order must be undone.
Although we agree the fact Andariel was able to supplant the rogues in their own seat of power does not bode well, and we can only imagine the horrors she wrought upon the monastery. We spy Chazi, the blacksmith, over yonder, and approaching her, she solemnly declares,
Send Andariel back to the hell she came from.
Unfortunately, Andariel may bring hell to us first. We then see Guide the merchant sweating noticeably more than usual, and he questions,
You're going after Andariel? One of my wagon wheels is in need of repair. I'll be under the wagon if I'm needed.
I'd trust not even Andariel could squash this slippery gypsy in a pinch. Kasha, leader of the rogues, looking agitated, states,
I can imagine 1,000 different ways to kill Andariel. You need only choose one.
I can only imagine the fury she feels at the thought of the anguish her sisters have suffered. We lastly see Wariv, the caravan owner, who explains our predicament in traveling west, saying,
The map makers tell us the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Our way east is a line that runs through Andariel's stronghold, the monastery.
It seems we have no choice. If we wish to pursue Diablo, we must face, and somehow, against all odds, defeat Andariel. Our quest log guides find Andariel's lair in the monastery catacombs, and after heading back to the outer cloister, so begins our long, arduous journey through its maze-like structure. First, into the jail levels, and upon entry, we exclaim,
This is no place for a warrior to die.
Although dimly lit we see the gore strewn about is more prevalent, the undead wraiths furious at their fates and choose to punish us for the tragedies they endured in life. After slogging our way through the dank jails, we spy a light at the end of the tunnel. Following it reveals stairs in the inner cloister, appearing much like the outer cloister and bringing us one step closer to the monastery. At the north end of the inner cloister, we find a once holy cathedral, now heavily desecrated, boasting a populace that consists of Wraith, the fallen and super unique skeleton mage Blood Ash, looking as if he's conducting his own unholy rituals in the stead of the sisters. After cleansing the cathedral, we spot some stairs leading down into the monastery itself. Upon entry, we exclaim,
There is great evil here.
Hacking our way through the denizens of the monastery, we find its fourth and final subterranean level, in which our quest updates with one final directive: kill Andariel. Before we face this foul demoness, we take a moment to portal back to the rogue encampment to complete the early return dialogue for the quest, in which Akara guides,
You have done much to help us, but I sense that this has only fueled Andariel's fury. She will not stop until we are all dead. You must kill Andariel before her army can gain the upper hand.
Time is against us, and Andariel's forces seem to gain power by the minute. As we make our way through the camp, Kasha beckons to us before we speak to the other camp folk and urges,
Deckard Cain has important information about Andariel.
So we stop by the scholar momentarily, and Cain tells us what he knows.
It is clear that Andariel is acting on behalf of Diablo to prevent anyone from following him eastward. Her defeat would allow you to continue the pursuit. Ancient lore has it that while Andariel was spawned in the burning hells, she is not fond of fire.
Our first tangible clue. Although it does seem counterintuitive, fire is our friend against this fiendish foe. Moving swiftly through the camp, we see Chazi and say,
If you are the hero that you seem to be, Now is the time to prove it.
We appreciate the confidence and pray our steel lands true. Maybe for once, Geed himself has some wisdom to impart too.
Have you stumbled upon that demon queen yet? I hear she's quite the beauty. As far as maidens of anguish go, that is.
Geed and Andariel, the maiden of anguish herself, having a tumble. That is a painting I would hang on the wall. We then spy Wareve by the campfire, who leans over to us and remarks,
"May I remind you that my caravan can only go east if the monastery is cleansed."
And with that, we head back through the portal into Andariel's lair. In the first room, although Andariel is rumored to hate fire, it's the first thing we feel, the heat of fire pouring forth. Blood splattered on the walls and also boiling up from the floor itself. We cautiously open the door to the next room and see more fire on the ground, as well as the fallen scattered about, except they're now called Dark Ones. There's what appears to be almost spines or tails of bone protruding from the ground and walls as if reaching up from hell itself, and rogue corpses shoved unceremoniously on spikes, as well as other unidentifiable human remains strewn about. Worse yet is the huge pool of blood filling a crater in the middle of the room with naked human bodies lobbed inside. After putting down the Dark Ones and their shaman masters, we head east through the big main doors, finding ourselves in a large hall adorned with pillars that have grown spikes and have also burst forth through its walls. The Dark Ones in this room are also stirred up in a frenzy. We clear them one by one and catch a glimpse of zombies, hoping that Andariel doesn't have a penchant for raising the dead, as her one-time puppet Bloodraven did too. It's then we're confronted by the biggest demon I've ever seen.
Fear me.
Female in appearance and scantily clad with hooven feet and tendrils growing from her back and hair that stands on its end. With every hooven stomp she takes towards us, the ground shakes and we back up into the former room, knowing at least there we've fully cleared it out of zombies and other perils. It's then we're forced to face Andariel in close quarters, as range isn't our strong suit, and while we successfully dodge some of the poison bolts she lobs, her casual wafting of clouds of poison are particularly vicious and hard to dodge. Having been hit with some of these clouds, we thirstily gulp potions and most of the antidotes in our inventory. Feeling nauseous and a tad overwhelmed by the attacks, we try and get a better footing and some respite from the barrage of poison, moving back into the larger hall. As Andariel is much slower to move, we have a moment to clear out the rest of the Dark Ones and shambling zombies, and finally meet Andariel in a 1v1 confrontation in front of her unholy throne. After nearly succumbing to her assaults, we successfully send the Demoness back to whence she came, the burning hells, with her anguished cry billowing through the room as it reverberates through the monastery itself, shaking its foundation. Her hated fire spewing forth as the roof looks to nearly collapse on top of us. It's then a portal opens to town.
My work here is finished.
And we're free to collect the loot of her body, including a potent crystal sword, yellow as well as yellow boots, a helm, and a choice amount of gems for socketing. Heading to the High Priestess, Akara, to advise her of the good news, she says,
"Finally we may rejoice. We owe you a debt we can never repay. I only hope that in time we will be able to rebuild our order. All our thanks go with you, my friend."
And we hope the Order is one day back to its former glory. Although no doubt the unenviable task of clearing out the monastery is ahead, we wish nothing more than the rogues can soon leave this makeshift camp behind and the terrors that they had to endure. We then see Deckard Cain, who says,
"This is a great victory indeed, but many more battles await. I will accompany you on your journey, lending what assistance I can. Remember, Diablo is still out there, seeking something in the desert. I'm afraid that this nightmare will not end until you find what it is that he seeks.
Heading up to the blacksmith Charzy once more, she says.
You'll probably go east now. It was good to know you. I hope you'll come back if you ever need anything.
This may be the last time we see the rogues and their encampment. Geed, who appears from his hiding spot underneath his wagon, exclaims,
I'm gonna party like it's $9.99.
But not all are in a celebratory mood. We then talk to a solemn Kasha who reflects.
Andariel's death brings about renewed life for us all. We mourn the loss of our dear sisters, but at least now we can get on with our lives. I may have misjudged you, Outlander. You are a true hero, and testament to the noble spirit which has inspired our order for generations. Farewell, my friend.
We bow our heads in remembrance of the sisters fallen and are thankful to have aided the order and humbled at Kasha's acknowledgement as a friend. We finally see Wareve by the campfire prepping for travels, who beckons to us saying,
The caravan is prepared. We may now journey eastward to Lut Golain.
With the path clear and the townsfolk safe, we have nothing left to do but pursue Diablo, travel east with our new companions, Wareve and Deckard Cain in tow, giving the Lord of Terror himself a chase on his way to Lut Golain.
We traveled east, over the mountains and into the vast deserts of broken lands. As the days passed, my companion told me of himself, that he had once been a great warrior, and that a dark and secret burden now weighed heavily upon him. We traveled for an eternity across that arid wasteland. How long? I couldn't say. And always, a dark cloud seemed to follow us just over the horizon. Finally, the journey ended. We climbed the last bridge. There below us lay our destination. The shining jewel, Lut Golain, with a great sea beyond. We made camp that last night. Perhaps it was the warm desert wind or the sound of the ocean, but for the first time in many weeks, I slept. However, the dreams returned, but these were clearly not my own. I beheld a vision of a great man, the mage, Talrasha. You were there too, Tyrael. I remember seeing you in my dream. His brethren had cornered a great demon, Baal, Lord of Destruction, who had been set loose upon the world. They attempted to imprison the demon within a sacred stone. Yet when their attempts failed, Talrasha selflessly volunteered to contain the demon within himself, completing the prison. He instructed his brethren to bind him within a tomb, buried under the sand, there to wrestle with the demon for all eternity.
Now you know what I seek, Marius. This is my brother. Sleep now. We set out with the dawn.